if your business isn't growing, you're dying. There will be someone else out there who is continually trying to grow and then take your market share. So you've got to kind of come to terms with the fact that once you hit a certain level, however you want that to define that parameter or that goal, there has to be a next one, because or else there's going to be someone coming doing the same thing that you're doing, just better or more efficient.
Most firms survive, the best ones scale. Welcome to the Managing Partners Podcast, where law firm leaders learn to think bigger. I'm Kevin Daisey. Let's jump in. What's up, everyone? We are live and excited here for this episode because I have Merritt Farmer on the show. Me and Merritt met at Pilma. We're down in San Antonio. We actually spent some time in the airport having a cocktail.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some funny stories there because I missed my next flight, but
Not at your own fault.
It wasn't my fault. It was American
Not
Airlines.
your fault.
But no, met at Pilma and just been chatting up here with Merritt. He's just a super cool dude and down home South Carolina, Charleston guy. And we have a lot of things in common. Here to talk today about where he's at, running his law firm, what he specializes in, but I think also too kind of, where he is mindset wise and how we met at Pilma, really, because it was his first conference, right? So,
yep, first one.
Yeah. So, well, Merritt, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you focus on and all that good stuff.
Sounds good. Thank you, buddy. So my name is Merritt Farmer, and I'm with the Farmer Law Firm here in Charleston, South Carolina. My office is actually in Mount Pleasant, which is right across the bridge, and we service kind of the Charleston Tri-County region, which covers Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester counties primarily. We have handled cases kind of throughout the state, north of Charleston up towards like Georgetown and Myrtle Beach, Horry County area, or south down towards Beaufort. But in a pretty good spot here, close to 26, and can get to wherever we need to be. Which isn't bad. And we primarily handle personal injury and criminal defense matters. And started practicing in 2014. I'm originally from Myrtle Beach, came down here to go to the Citadel, and then never left. So stayed down here during the summers. Charleston was a lot of fun and a hard place to leave once you've been down here. And then went to law school here at the Charleston School of Law. Always had a vision of working for myself. My dad, he's a CPA. He has his own firm. And so that's all I kind of knew was go work for yourself. So we've been doing it a pretty good while now and try to have a lot of fun doing it and all the other fun things that Charleston has to offer, especially this time of year.
Yeah, Charleston's a beautiful, beautiful place. Never spent a lot of time there, but what's not like about Charleston is beautiful. It's like even Merritt's background, the paint color on his wall is bright and looks like he's in Charleston.
Yes.
It's got that feel to it. No, I love that. And so, what me and Merritt were talking about earlier was like, where is he at as a firm? And really, he started kind of talking about, he listens to podcasts. He's listening to other folks. He got introduced to Pilma and came out to Pilma, and we know some of the same folks now. But yeah, just give me a little background on kind of your thought process and where you're at, and trying to expand and grow your firm.
Yeah. So back in, I guess it was probably around maybe November of last year, October. I was trying to figure out like a transition from the marketing folks that I had previously been using, and a good friend of mine from Myrtle Beach had joined Pilma several years ago, and her name's Amy Lovely. She's awesome. Her and her husband have a great firm up in Myrtle Beach, and she had told me to join Pilma years ago, and I didn't. Obviously, it's kind of like your child not listening. And then I got in touch with Ken and got to meet Ken, and Ken was great. And
Ken's
through
awesome.
that process, I went down this long rabbit hole of, the personal injury marketing and a lot of different podcasts, that are even more beneficial towards like casework that people are done and things that people are doing in certain types of litigation. So I really went down this deep rabbit hole between Dan Ambrose podcast, Trial Lawyers University, the Max Law guys, those guys are great, and a whole bunch of them. And then decided that I was going to go to the conference in San Antonio for Pilma, which was a whole nother eye-opening experience that I really didn't know even existed. You walk in there and there's 300 vendors, and every other one's a .ai right now. But
No crap.
what was interesting is we obviously a small firm, and at the time I had another attorney working with me who has since left, and will probably be looking to add another attorney sometime over the next 12 months. But we have one other paralegal, and outside of just trying to grow the business and get more people to call and expand, your intake, the other part of that is how do you handle, you know, your caseload. And we had a pretty good setup based on my other attorney that was with me handling a lot of the stuff pre-suit with the insurance adjusters and things like that, because I also do a fair amount of criminal defense work, a lot of DUI work. And so I'm in
Sure.
court probably 2 to 3 days a week or so, on average. So you're looking at all these little avenues and ways to get better and more efficient. And the one thing I think that's really interesting and has been very helpful since joining Pilma is, meeting people like you at Pilma and seeing all of the different things that are available to law firms nowadays, especially smaller mid-sized firms that can make your life a lot easier. We just signed up with EvenUp to help with our pre-litigation, all of our files, and keeping everything together and moving cases along at a more efficient pace. So that's what really brought me to Pilma, was trying to kind of peel back the layers of the onion, if you will. And then once I started that, realized it's a pretty deep rabbit hole. It's like the Matrix. And I think
No,
if you really wanted to, there's really no end to it. Personal injury, especially, is such a competitive market. I mean, probably better than anybody, that I'd be hard pressed to think that there's a more competitive advertising and marketing space than the personal injury legal space.
no, yeah, you're spot on. The interesting thing too is that you can't just market or just advertise.
Right,
Like you have to get all the other shit right. So,
right,
you have to run a good operation. You have to have good client experience. You have to not drop the ball. You have to get the results.
right.
So yeah, it takes a lot. It's you can't just do one thing, right? So I think that's
100%.
and that's what, Pilma, Ken, there's tons of other organizations out there as well. But so I preach this all the time to anyone listening. Like, go find a group of other people that are doing what you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's the secret to growth, really. It's
right.
you mentioned Dan Ambrose and Lawyers University, Bob Simon. We got Law de Graw and National Trial Lawyers events, Pilma, Eight Figure Firm is another
Yeah,
great one. So there's so many resources. I think you said that, like, you can go find YouTube channels and podcasts and learn all this shit yourself.
right.
But it's really powerful though when you get in a room full of people together.
Absolutely. And,
You know what I'm saying?
especially when you're a smaller mid-sized firm, I think that sometimes, being a lawyer and practicing law can be kind of a lonely venture, right? It's not like I get to go home and tell my wife everything about what I did today and, all the ins and outs, because everything that, we're dealing with is obviously privileged and confidential. In addition to that, most of the time when I've got a client, and no different than anybody else, but the person sitting across my desk and asking me to help them is needing help for something that is probably something they've never dealt with before, and might be the most catastrophic event that they've dealt with their family or a child or what have you,
Yeah.
and something that could change the course of their life and career, from a pretty monumental trajectory, right? So you've got a lot of people depending on you, and when you end up in a space like Pilma, it's obviously very reassuring to know that everyone is dealing with those same sorts of problems, right? And they're also trying to figure out from a business perspective, what's the best way to do this for me, for my clients, for this, for our staff. And it's obviously reassuring and good when you can get in a room like that and see, like, for instance, Trey Harrell's a local guy here in Charleston who I've known for a long time, and he's have seen a lot of growth over the last few years and spoke at Pilma and has done a really good job. So it's great to, get in a room and hear from people who are either where you're situated now, that they were there a couple of years ago or maybe 10 years ago, and see where
Yeah.
they are now and how they were able to do it, which is really, reassuring, helps with some, motivation that, you can get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. I mean, everyone can do it. I think, I've been in business I've been self-employed at least for 20 years. So one thing I know for sure, because this is daily, like I have a partners meeting today. We'll make a change, fix a bunch of stuff, and it creates 5 more problems. You know what I mean? So, and like this, I was just looking in my Slack channel before this episode, before recording. I was like, oh, we just promoted this person over here, but then there's all these issues with that job role, and it caused all these other issues. And, so by putting one person in leadership over here, and then it causes all these problems. If you go use EvenUp, maybe it helps a bunch of things here, but uncover some other issues that you didn't know about.
Right.
So it's never ending and never will be.
There's always a moving target.
It'll never be done. So
Right.
I think that's the thing as an entrepreneur is like you have to come to terms with that. It'll never be perfect. It'll never be
Yeah.
right. It'll never be done. There's going to be another fire. And I think if that's not what you want, then maybe it's not for you.
Right.
But if you can get comfortable with that and say, all right, cool, fix a bunch of problems today. What's the next problems that are going to surface next, and be ready for that versus going, crap, it's another problem. Like there's always going to be another problem. So,
Absolutely. And also, I mean, when you're looking at it, if you start setting, some goals, whether, it's some sort of internal function goal or just like a growth goal, once you get to that goal, it's not done, because then there inevitably should be a next goal. Good friend of mine, he's in the medical waste business. He told me one time, he said, if your business isn't growing, you're dying,
there you go.
because there will be someone else out there who is continually trying to grow and then take your market share. So you've got to kind of come to terms with the fact that
Yeah.
once you hit a certain level, however you want that to define that parameter or that goal, there has to be a next one, because, or else there should be someone coming doing the same thing that you're doing, just better or more efficient. I guess when I first started working with like an SEO company a few years back, I had no idea about how Google worked and SEO and algorithm and all these things. And that's what, part of that rabbit hole in podcast has taught me, that that's another moving target too, right? Because even if you're, hiring somebody, say, okay, this is our goal and we've hired somebody to handle this. Well, it's always evolving on their end on what
Yeah.
they need to do in order to stay on page one or whatever that parameter is that you're looking for, because Google's changing that all the time. So even though you've tried to take that off your plate, they're still going to come back to you and need you to be proactive and involved. You say, hey, we need more of this or more information or content or whatever it is. And that's obviously a revolving door that's never going to stop turning.
No, it's I talk to obviously law firms all the time about this, but it's a two-way street. You don't hire an agency and you sit back and they just do everything. The law firm has a lot of tasks and things they need to be doing.
Right.
Be involved, community involvement, community events, local sponsorships, creating video, getting on podcasts.
Right.
The more you can do as a owner or the brand of the firm, the easier it is for the agency or internal marketing of whatever you have. The
Right.
more you're able to commit to those things and make it part of your daily habits, the better. You can't just have an agency just wave a wand and it's all right. We got it figured out, and
Right.
there's nothing else you have to do. It's changing, rapidly. You got
So, I mean,
AI.
out of curiosity, how did you end up in the law firm marketing space? Like, what brought you there?
Damn it. Good question. So I back when I was like in middle school, started making websites. It's like late 90s probably. And I just thought it was a fun thing. And then went to college for architecture. Did not go there doing marketing, but I like to design stuff, build stuff, create stuff. So, long story short, into a career in the engineering kind of space, I met some entrepreneurs, like a side kind of group. I didn't own a company, but I was like, yeah, I like to make websites, and that kind of people raise their hand, like, yo, I need a website. So anyway, I got the bug, left my job, quit, and started my own company in 2006, just doing local websites for
Right.
Virginia Beach, Virginia area. And I just grew that to where I started doing marketing and SEO and web
Yeah.
and all that crap. But it was all local, which was cool. But then I did the same thing as you. I went down the rabbit hole, went to a mastermind group. They're like, you don't niche into like any industry. I'm like, no, I just, we're local. We work with a bunch of law firms locally, not by design. And again, exposing myself to others, they were like, what, if you niche and you focus and you're specific with your message and you become an expert in whatever
Right.
industry you pick, that's how you really build and scale and attract, the right kind of client.
Right.
And so it was a process of elimination. We had a bunch of medical clients, we had law firm clients, we had lots of home services clients. We just chose law and kind of profiled out what our clients look like, which ones were fun to work with. And I've mentioned this to you before, but I have a HVAC home service
Right.
marketing company. So we kind of did both. So it was like, hey, we're going to do this over here and start this over here. I've always been the
Yeah.
face of the legal side. That's who I hang out with. That's all I do. So, um, yeah.
Man,
So
you
that
can pick some better friends.
I know, so I'm really reconsidering the No, I've just met so many great people in this industry and so many good lawyers that are passionate, they're fun, they're casual, they're cool. It's not
Yeah.
what the world would think lawyers are. And
Right.
I think that's been a really cool process.
Yeah.
We're all here trying to build our businesses, help people, and lawyers help a lot of people. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And that is one thing that like, if you look at what Dan Ambrose does with his podcast and his, business, he's obviously really trying to help and teach people to hone their skills. And then there's a guy here in South Carolina named Kenny Berger, who's an outstanding attorney. He's got a great podcast called Best Practices, where similarly he talks with
nice.
um, other lawyers as well and about certain case specific things, which that's another really interesting part. And going down this like rabbit hole, and that, yes, we are all competing against each other and like the guy down the street, right?
Yeah,
Um, but I feel like when you go to Pilma and you start, you know, engaging in these groups, there's a very cohesive goal of helping people because we're all, we are either litigating against the insurance industry, which is probably the largest lobby in the country, um, or the government, which is the largest, entity that you've got to go
yeah,
up against, right? I don't know if I didn't expect it, but the amount of resources and people that wanting to help other people and put them in the best place because there's always going to be a lot of business, right? Like Charleston, we have grown exponentially and have essentially the same amount of roads that we did when I moved here 23 years ago, right?
oh, wow.
um, and far more cars on the road. So like there are always going to be a need for services. And so you obviously try to put your business and you in the best position to get that. But from a standpoint of when you need help or some advice or a lot of people are seeing these Amazon cases. I forgot which podcast. I think it might have been on the Great Trials podcast. They had a guy on that does a lot of Amazon work and figuring out how to attack certain things that everybody's there for the betterment of our industry, which I think
Sure.
is very good because that's what people need when they're hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it for this, for you all to get better as law firm leaders, to start your own firms, to be there as a service, to have a community to help you give better client experience, represent them better in the courtroom and
Right.
in your cases. And then for the great lawyers out there doing the great work, we want them to be the ones that show up when someone's looking for help.
Right.
You're not just a person that can buy ads and have a facade
Right.
and not be a community actual contributor. So,
Right.
yeah, so that's I mean, that's my podcast is all about is these stories and someone go, "Oh, damn, I didn't know that. I didn't know I
Yeah.
could use that." Or I'm gonna apply that into my firm, my business. So yeah, there's such a great community. Um, Tons of resources. Anyone listening, if you're a solo starting out, whatever, to say there's no help out there is crazy. You just got to look and go down the rabbit
Absolutely.
hole like Merritt has done. So he's just at the start of it.
Yes. That's what my poor wife, when we go anywhere, my parents live a couple hours away and got family like 5 hours away. So we road trip a lot. And as soon as we get in the car, boys fall asleep and it's like, all right, podcast. She's like,
Mowing the
again?
lawn. Yeah.
She hears like the intro music and she's like, oh, really? Well, you're gonna go to sleep anyway. So I need
My wife
I need
always goes
something
to sleep.
beneficial to come out of this.
Yeah, my wife always goes to sleep. The kids usually, well, they don't go to sleep as easy now because they're older, but still, they're on their phones with their headphones on at this point. So
We're
good
not there
times.
yet. We've got 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old. So, give them a snack and their water bottle. They'll usually fall asleep there pretty shortly. But that's a whole different set of challenges than the phones and the iPads.
Yeah. But everything costs more, I'll say that. I wanted a gaming computer. Holy crap. Like that's I remember when Christmas was like $200 a pop and now it's like a couple thousand.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, pro tip, yeah, there's so much access to things now. And there's a lot of people trying to help. There's tons of groups. Just go down the rabbit hole like Merritt's done, or just go to Kim Hardison, Pilma. You can go to How to Manage a Small Law Firm. There's another big group, mainly for solos that are starting out.
Yeah.
So there's so much stuff out there, but I definitely advise anyone to get off their ass, go travel, and get in the room. Yeah, it costs more,
100%.
but if you've never gone to one, like it'll change, everything
Definitely a
for
little bit
you.
intimidating. I was kind of nervous. So, as you said earlier, my wife came out there with me, but the first day when I got out there for registration, I flew in and she didn't come till the next day. And I obviously didn't know what to expect. And my friend Amy, who was supposed to be there with her husband Justin, they ended up not being able to go. So I was
Nice.
sitting there like, now I don't know anybody. Trey, when are you getting here? And you walk into that room and the vendor area is just like huge. I mean, it was it was an eye-opening experience that definitely beforehand was a little bit intimidating just based on the unknown. But then you get in there and you start meeting people, and then you start seeing people that, like Dan Ambrose, listen to his podcast and then see him walk around
There he
his
is.
tracksuit, right?
That's tracksuit.
And everybody's obviously great, like you said. And there is, that first step, not having been to one definitely changed things because I will absolutely be at the Super Summit again next year. And I've already started looking at others kind of for different perspectives too.
Yeah.
Like definitely want to go do TLU at some point, knowing that once you kind of rip that Band-Aid off, or at least, open the door to go down the rabbit hole, that is definitely, something that gives you a little bit of hesitation, but it was a great experience. And
Yeah.
I look forward to doing it more.
Yeah. Uh, I I preach it all the time. And again, I might be there. I'm kind of a vendor, if you will. Although I always just set up to do this podcast instead of
Yeah,
trying to be a vendor. But like going to the sessions and learning, and like I run a business too, so it's a lot can be applied, a lot can be learned, and not maybe just the attorneys, but if you're a larger firm, you're second in command. Maybe you have a COO, maybe you have other people.
yeah.
They can all benefit from one of these as well.
Also, another real big takeaway that I have from there is even just outside the legal industry, the biggest thing that you're to see going on right now is AI, right? And the use of Chat GPT or Claude or all of these
Oh yeah.
different things that you can use, which I I think that my initial perspective was probably much more negative than it is now, in a sense that ChatGPT and all of these things are now as good as they ever have been. But 6 months from now, they will be demonstrably better.
Yeah.
And which is one of the reasons that we kind of used EvenUp, that if you have to have some sort of embracing of that and the benefits that it can provide. Because I don't think that we are an industry that will ever, everybody talks about it, taking away the need for a lawyer because it can draft a contract, what have you. At least in our business, in criminal defense and personal injury, you are litigating. ChatGPT cannot represent you in court. But
Yeah.
what it can do is it can help you run more efficient and keep things kind of streamlined, which is obviously beneficial. If you don't embrace it, then I think you will absolutely get left behind.
Yeah.
And
It'd be like not
there
it'd be not like not using email when email came out.
right.
You know what I mean? It ain't going
And
nowhere.
there's so many different systems out there that I think that, a lot of them do very similar functions, right? There's a lot of AI intakes now, which I think a year ago I'd have said that's crazy. I hate talking to a robot when I'm trying to call somebody, right?
Yeah.
But now, as this technology's gotten so much better, I think that there's a lot of people that I wouldn't say enjoy, but don't have any aversion to communicating with some sort of AI system on a telephone because it's more efficient and can be better than a real person, right?
Yeah, they're trying to
You
get
know,
they're
they're
trying to get something accomplished. So
right,
sometimes it depends on the step in the process maybe, but to your point, you're like completely against it. Now it's like, huh, maybe not.
hundred
Merritt
percent.
was on my mastermind that we just had on this
Yeah.
week. And one of my clients, who's a personal injury attorney, has developed his own AI
Yeah.
intake. He might even come back next time on the mastermind to share what he's done, but he's doing it
That was
himself.
a lot. I'm looking forward to hearing about that because, I've got friends that are in like the IT world and that's what they do. And they're like, you can build this. And I'm like, dude, I'm lucky to, navigate my Safari tabs, much less build some sort of AI agent on my own. But that there are so many things that if you find, what fits best for you, because they all have different little niches or different little additives that may work better for you. Like randomly, the guy from EvenUp who came and met with me, he and I had known each other through just some mutual friends from
Okay,
several years
cool.
back. We're excited to kind of start with them here in the next week or so. And I'll be interested to see the difference in the next, 90 days to 6 months on how it keeps everything together and streamlines the process on, what your next steps are, but
Yeah,
where
how
are
much
certain
time
documents
saved?
located.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a running tally of everything that's got to get done to the next point, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's so many companies out there. I've had a lot of them on the show, but even up, Ray, one of the founders. I've had Eve on the show. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of competitors, and there's so much. It's overwhelming how many things are out there. But I think it's a good step to say, hey, I'm gonna dip my toe in the
Right.
water and see how it works. And you're investing in AI, which is great. So yeah, I just came back from a law firm like AI workshop last week that I spoke at, and lawyers, solos, and big ones sitting there, trying to figure out some of the stuff themselves, build their own systems. But yes, there's so many good systems out there that you can buy versus you having to go do it yourself. So it
Right.
just depends on kind of your appetite.
And
And
also, I think one thing that I was a little bit, probably a little bit misguided on was that, obviously my aversion to using like Chat GPT in the past or something similar was that it's not secure. So there have been a lot of issues with people kind of across the country putting
yeah,
things in that shouldn't be in there, right? So that's a risk factor that I was like, you got to avoid that. And then also, it coming off as if you were to ask ChatGPT to create some sort of document or letter for you, especially nowadays, you can kind of tell and see that the AI has created your document or your product.
yeah,
And it seemed a little bit just like kind of lazy to me. But then when you start kind of really getting to know what's available, It's just something that can make you better. It's like, for instance, I would assume that in your business, we see a lot of things that Google will, like if you're talking about content or a blog post or, something like that, I've heard that it will flag and not treat it as like genuine content, right? There are ways that it can, it's just like anything else. It's like a tool.
It
Like,
can help
do you
you.
want to use an electric saw or do you want to use a hand saw?
Yeah, you just gotta know where to use it, and this is, something I'll end with is, we've kinda chosen to go all in my business anyway. We could do all AI, we could go all offshore, or we could go all
Right.
real employees in an office. We've kinda gone all 3. So we have support in South America,
Right.
awesome team of people that are layers in the middle. We have full-time people in the US that do the majority of our creative work strategy.
Right.
They guide it. And then there's AI that can be used in the middle. And you always want to have a human oversight, check everything and
Yeah.
so if we wrote a blog, AI could write the blog, but we build the instructions, it can write the blog, and then we can have humans
Tweak it.
come back
Yeah.
to refine it and make it a custom piece. So there's all kinds of ways you can use it. And now, like, if you're a lawyer, if you're making videos, you're doing podcasts, the transcripts can be taken and given to your marketing team. They can use the transcripts to write the blog, which is
100%.
your voice, which is unique,
Right.
and it's not going
Right.
to be AI generated. Use AI because it can help you, but just don't be careless with it, and
Right.
and don't
100%.
use 100% AI ever.
Agreed.
You'll be safe. Well, cool, man. Merritt, I appreciate you. A lot of people are probably in your shoes where you're at, trying to hire that next attorney. You had an attorney, but it looks like you're hiring again soon. Go down the rabbit hole. Go to some events. Listen to some of these awesome podcasts that are out there.
There's plenty of them,
There's
and they're
plenty of
all
them.
very helpful.
You mentioned a bunch, so I appreciate that. What is the best way for folks that want to connect with you? Maybe they have a need for your type of law in South Carolina. Maybe they don't have a good referral partner. What's the best way
we
for
are
folks
at
to
the
reach you?
website is www.thefarmerlawfirm.com. My email address is mfarmer@thefarmerlawfirm.com, and our number is 843-306-4144. Anybody can shoot me an email. Happy to help them any way we can. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you soon in other places, conferences,
Yes.
the mastermind, and
your inevitable trip down to Charleston.
I know he's trying to get me to go to Charleston, which is not going to be too hard to do. It's got to get the wives to align, and we're going to be just fine.
This is a fun trip.
It's going to be a fun trip. So looking forward to that. And met Merritt. I mean, we might have met briefly at the conference, but
I think we met briefly at the conference, and then sitting at the one restaurant bar there in San Antonio.
No, there's one. Don't walk too far. You're gonna go past it, and then you got to come back. So, but yeah, you never know who you're gonna meet. So you just put yourself out there and show up, and I think that's a great takeaway from today's show. So, everyone, thanks for listening to another episode. I hope you get to run into Merritt, meet him, reach out to him. If you want a direct connection to him, please let me know, and I'll make it happen.
I appreciate that.
Merritt, you hang on with me. Everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kevin.
Yes, sir.